Have you ever played a video game and thought to yourself, wow, this looks almost real? Maybe it was the way the light bounced off a car's surface, the way a character's face showed emotion, or the way sound surrounded you as if you were inside another world. That feeling of realism doesn't happen by accident. It's the result of years of innovation, technology, and design all working together to trick your brain into believing something digital feels alive. Stay until the end, because once you understand what makes video games so realistic, you'll never look at them the same way again. Let's start with the most obvious element: graphics. For decades, graphics have been the main marker of realism. Early games were made of blocks and simple shapes. A character might be a cluster of pixels, with just enough detail to let you imagine what they were supposed to be. Compare that to modern games, where every hair on a character's head can move independently, where raindrops slide down armor, where shadows bend realistically as the sun moves across the sky. What changed? The power of rendering. Rendering is the process of turning code into images. Every tree, every blade of grass, every reflection is calculated by your console or computer. The better the rendering, the more lifelike the world looks. But realism isn't only about graphics, it's also about light. Imagine walking outside on a sunny day. The way shadows stretch, the way colors change as the sun sets, the way light reflects off water. These are things your brain expects. Video games use something called dynamic lighting to mimic this. Modern systems can calculate how light behaves in real time, bouncing off surfaces, scattering through fog, even changing color as it filters through leaves. This is called ray tracing, and it's one of the biggest leaps in game realism. Instead of faking light with shortcuts, ray tracing simulates how light actually works in the real world. That's why games with ray tracing look stunning. It's not just sharp graphics, it's believable light. Now, let's look at movement. Think about how a person walks. It's not just one motion repeated. It's a complex rhythm of muscles, balance, and subtle variations. For years, video games struggled with movement. Characters would glide across the floor or move stiffly, breaking the illusion. Today, developers use motion capture technology. Actors wear suits covered in sensors that track every movement of their bodies. Those movements are then applied to digital characters, giving them realistic motion. That's why sports games feel so accurate, or why action games can mimic the tiniest gestures. You're not just watching animation, you're watching the translation of real human motion into digital form. But realism doesn't stop at how things look or move. It's also about how they sound. Imagine playing a horror game in silence. It wouldn't feel real. Sound design is one of the most underrated parts of realism. Developers record footsteps on different surfaces so they sound distinct. They simulate echoes in caves, muffled sounds through walls, the roar of engines, the whisper of wind. Modern audio even uses spatial technology, meaning the sound changes depending on where you stand in the virtual world. Put on a good pair of headphones, and suddenly you can hear enemies sneaking up behind you, just like in real life. That immersion comes from sound. And then there's physics. Realism falls apart the moment objects don't behave the way you expect. If you throw a ball and it floats strangely, the illusion breaks. Games use physics engines to make objects behave as they should. Gravity pulls, friction slows, collisions bounce, but it goes deeper. Think of how cloth moves in the wind, how water splashes when you step in it, how glass shatters into pieces. Each of these requires complex calculations, often running hundreds of times per second, to simulate reality. The result is a world that feels alive, not just painted. Here's something you might not think about: artificial intelligence. The world doesn't feel real if its inhabitants behave like robots. Early games had enemies that moved in patterns you could predict. Walk left, they follow. Jump up, they repeat. Today, AI makes characters respond intelligently. Enemies can flank you, adapt to your strategies, even show fear. Allies can help in natural ways, reacting to your choices. The more human they feel, the more immersive the experience. AI brings unpredictability, and unpredictability feels real. Now let's talk about storytelling. Realism isn't only about the technical side, it's also emotional. A game feels real when the characters feel human, when their struggles, emotions, and choices mirror our own. Motion capture helps, but so does writing, acting, and direction. When you see a character cry and it moves you, that's realism too. It's the blending of art and technology to pull you deeper into the illusion. But realism also comes from interaction. Think about how you interact with the world around you in real life. You can touch, pick up, move, break. The more a game lets you interact, the more real it feels. Open-world games allow you to climb mountains, swim in rivers, ride horses, drive cars, talk to strangers. The freedom to explore gives a sense of reality. It's not just a background you look at. It's a place you live in. That freedom creates immersion. And yet, all these elements, graphics, light, sound, physics, AI, story, interaction, still rely on one thing: your brain. The magic of video game realism is in how it tricks your mind into filling gaps. No game is truly real. Every tree, every shadow, every sound is an illusion. But your brain accepts it because it follows the rules of reality closely enough. The closer those rules match your expectations, the more real it feels. It's like watching a movie. You know it's not real, but you suspend disbelief because the story feels alive. Let me tell you a story. In the early 90s, a game called Doom shocked people. It was one of the first to create a 3D illusion, with corridors and monsters that felt alive compared to flat, pixelated games before it. At the time, it felt unbelievably real. Compare that to today's titles, and it looks primitive. But that feeling of realism is always relative. Each generation pushes the boundaries, and what once felt groundbreaking becomes outdated. The pursuit of realism is endless, because our expectations keep rising. Now, consider the role of hardware. Realism requires power. The more detailed the graphics, the more complex the physics, the smarter the AI, the stronger the machine must be. Consoles and gaming PCs are like engines, and each generation brings more horsepower. Faster processors, more memory, advanced graphics cards. Without them, realism stalls. That's why game realism often follows hardware cycles. As machines get stronger, games leap forward in realism. But let's not forget immersion beyond visuals and sound. Virtual reality takes realism further by placing you inside the world. Strap on a headset, and you're not looking at a screen. You're inside it. Move your head, and the world moves with you. Reach out, and you can grab virtual objects. VR isn't perfect, but it's the closest we've come to stepping inside a game. And it shows where realism might go in the future. There's another piece of the puzzle: detail. Realism shines in small touches. Dust floating in the air. Leaves rustling as you walk. Characters glancing at each other in subtle ways. These details often go unnoticed consciously, but they register subconsciously. They tell your brain, "This feels real." Developers spend countless hours adding tiny details you might never notice directly. But without them, the illusion would feel empty. And let's not forget emotion again. The most realistic games don't just look like the real world. They feel like it. They make you care about characters, feel tension in battles, laugh in moments of humor. Emotion is the ultimate form of realism. Technology can simulate light and sound, but emotion makes it human. So, what makes video games realistic? It's not just one thing. It's the combination of technology and art. Graphics and light trick your eyes. Sound tricks your ears. Physics tricks your sense of how the world works. AI tricks your expectations of behavior. Story and detail trick your emotions. All together, they weave an illusion so strong, you forget it's an illusion. You feel like you're there. That's realism. Now here's the question I leave you with. What game has felt the most real to you? And why? Was it the graphics, the sound, the story, or something else? Share your thoughts in the comments. Tell me your most immersive gaming experience. And if you want to keep exploring the hidden systems that make our everyday technology feel alive, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Because the story of video game realism is just one chapter in the endless journey of how humans turn imagination into reality.